Next stop.
I'm your host, Anita Blanton. I'll be with you through 4 p.m. today. So here's a look at some of the things that we have lined up for you in this first hour that we have here together. 3 burglaries of businesses with video gaming terminals have been reported in the south and southwest suburbs in just a very short time span. So Oakland officials are asking for assistance to push back on what they say is really becoming a growing issue for them. The village manager is going to be zooming in soon. Looking forward to that conversation, especially anytime we see something brand new pop up. Want to get right on top of that and see if we might be able to shift some of the dynamics that they're seeing, at least with increasing awareness, right? Also, we have Chicago Alderman William Hall, who will be here. He's going to be zooming in probably in the next 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes here. He just finished up a press conference confronting what he calls corporate abandonment. We see it often in areas that we say are disinvested. And this in particular is following a Walgreens store's impending closure in Chatham. The closure is going to leave thousands of Southside residents without reliable access to pharmacy services. So if you really think about this, maybe you think, well, I don't know really what it's like to be in a pharmacy desert, a food desert, all of these things. But think about even the seniors that might not be able to get out and about as much as they used to, but maybe something was sitting right next to their home or sitting within a short walking distance or car ride, and now they're going to have to go to a whole new neighborhood. These things can add up very quickly, especially when we talked about gas prices right now, all of those things. If you're on a tight budget, if you're on a fixed income, how it could affect a lot of folks who live in that area. So we'll be talking to him very soon as well. But first, we're going to start here with the latest developments on a story that we have been staying on top of for a while. Okay, and there have been lots of new developments over the weekend. This story, it's had so many twists and turns. So our first guest has been covering even longer than we've been talking about it, and I'm referring to the growing calls for change at Wisconsin's Ridgeland Farms. It's reportedly been breeding beagles, beagle puppies, for scientific research for years. Brian Polson from our sister station in Milwaukee is here. Thank you so much for being here and getting us up to date, but also maybe taking us back too. Uh-oh, Brian, I can't hear you, and I definitely want people to be able to hear you for this. Not sure if it's on our end or yours. Do we know? Okay. They said maybe if you leave and rejoin. Let's see if that works. If you recall, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a protester who was on the show. It was a large group of protesters, a few hundred people that have been outside of this Ridgeland Farms facility in Wisconsin over the weekend. So we had them on maybe on a Monday. They had been outside this Ridgeland Farms facility. Many of them got arrested that particular weekend trying to break in and rescue the puppies that were inside. And since that time, there have been so many different things that have been happening, some that even brought several of the beagles to this area. You often hear us talk about Paws Chicago and the wonderful work that they do, both here in our area, but also when a call comes in from areas afar. I mean, just a couple of months ago, they took in 41 animals from one other state to help there, and now they're taking in animals from this Ridgeland Farms in Wisconsin. So I'm not sure how many of the puppies from over the weekend ended up going to Paws Chicago, but it just goes to show they're always working to make sure that these dogs, these it could be wonderful pets, wonderful family members, furry friends of someone here in our area, don't end up in places where their lives are at risk. And so they'll be working to make sure they're ready to be adopted in the next few weeks here. But there have been a lot of calls for this particular business to change the way it operates. And those calls have been at a fever pitch over the last few weeks here, especially. Like I said, they've been in business for many years, decades that they've been in business. But this spotlight, remember, I was saying the same thing, even when it comes to Alderman Hall and what he's advocating for. Sometimes the spotlight is what changes things. When more people are aware of what's happening. I mean, maybe people wouldn't have known what was going on at this particular facility had it not been for the protests that started to happen outside of it. For sure, that's not saying that all of the actions that were happening outside were lawful, but they did raise a level of awareness where we were at least able to find out what was going on there, started to ask more questions. I believe we have Brian Polson here now. Do we have Brian? Are you there? Brian, are you there? Nope, still can't hear you. Maybe if you join from your phone. We've got a little time here. So let's try one more time. Hopefully third time is the charm. Brian, can you hear me?
All right, I'm going through my cell phone now.
Okay, I can hear you. Yes,
you
wonderful.
Can hear me now? Okay.
All right, all right.
Technology's a beast, apparently, but here we are.
Okay. It's wonderful when it works,
That's right.
So let's talk about, again, maybe let's start with the latest developments there for the Ridgeland Farms.
So obviously the biggest news, and I've been covering this now for well over a year. Ridgeland Farms has been in business for 60 years in Wisconsin. They breed and sell Beagle puppies for scientific research, and in recent years they've come under the attention of animal rights activists. This goes all the way back to 2017 when activists first went in and removed 3 beagles and raised attention. They ultimately petitioned for a special prosecutor who was appointed to investigate possible animal cruelty charges inside, and that led to a settlement agreement that by July 1st of this year, Ridgeland Farms is to surrender its state breeding license, but of course it'll still be allowed to do in-house experiments under its federal USDA license. All of that going on, I'm sure your viewers have seen the open rescue efforts that occurred, so-called open rescues on March 15th and again on April 18th, as activists descended on Ridgeland Farms and tried to essentially force their way in, cutting through fences, breaking into buildings to remove animals. They call it a rescue. Ridgeland Farms called it a crime. There are some criminal charges that have been filed. But finally, a couple of rescue groups, large rescue groups with some donors behind them, jumped in, and that's really the big development. Just last Friday, those two groups, it was the Big Dog Ranch Rescue out of Florida, Palm Beach County, Florida, and the Center for a Humane Economy, a nonprofit in Washington, D.C., both announced that they had signed an agreement, a deal with Ridgeland Farms to get 1,500 of the dogs out in exchange for money. They won't say how much money, but we do know that Laura Trump, who was on the board of Big Dog Ranch Rescue, that's the president's daughter-in-law, she had put out an Instagram video a couple of weeks ago after the most recent mass rescue attempt, saying that they offered $1 million for all 2,000 beagles, but Ridgeland Farms had not accepted. We don't know how much they paid this time, other than the fact that the executive director of Big Dog Ranch said it was less than that $1 million, and they were able to get an agreement for 1,500, and they started moving out on Friday. They are continuing that exodus today, and this will be going on for the next couple of weeks.
Wow. So they've had repeated efforts to get the dogs out of there. But why is it, that they're still federally protected even for the research? I'm sure people are hearing, us talk about it, and they're thinking, well, if it's so bad in there, yes, getting rid of 1,500 dogs that, and may save their lives, that's a wonderful thing. But why is it that they're still federally protected to be able to continue their research?
Well, that goes to the bigger picture question of animal research in America. And for a long time, for decades and decades, animal research has been required by the federal government as part of the drug or therapeutic approval process. So to get a drug to market, you have to show first that it works in animals before you can test it in humans. And that's been that way since the 1930s. It's been that way for a long time. A lot of that research is done on things like rats and mice, and we don't really think maybe much about that. But a lot of the end stage research before it goes into humans is performed on dogs, non-human primates, cats, rabbits, and there is a growing national backlash against the idea of using what we consider family pets, dogs, in research, but it's still legal as of now. There's been a movement, a shift away from animal testing. The FDA Modernization Act 2.0 of 2022, for the first time, said it is no longer a requirement that you use animals for this end stage research before it goes into humans. You can use other methods that are now new and emerging, like there's artificial intelligence, there are organoids, there are organs on a chip, all sorts of non-animal methods. But there's some debate about whether those are yet proven to be as effective as the animal models. Some will say that the animal models are terribly ineffective on their own, that more than 90% of the time, drugs that work in animals don't end up getting approval after they've been tested in humans to go on the market. So there's some real question right now about where animal testing is and where it's going. For now, it is still legal. And you mentioned something about the conditions or how the dogs are being treated inside. There's really two tracks here. There's some people who are just concerned in general that we shouldn't be experimenting on dogs, and others who say what's going on inside this facility shouldn't be happening the way it is. The special prosecutor who looked at Ridgeland Farms was only able to look at what's actually happening to the dogs inside. And what he ultimately settled on was a certain type of surgery that had been taking place, a so-called cherry eye surgery, where unlicensed or non-veterinarians had the surgeries delegated to them by the supervising veterinarian, and they allegedly were not using proper anesthesia. That was considered to be maltreatment of the dogs and worthy of a criminal charge. But instead of actually charging that crime, the special prosecutor said he agreed to having Ridgeland Farms wind up its breeding operation by July 1st of this year. So this big rescue of 1,500 beagles that's going on right now is really a function of that settlement, because Ridgeland Farms' breeding operation for sale ends July 1st of this year. They will be able to continue doing research in-house, but likely on a much smaller scale than what they've been doing over the years with the breeding operation.
Wow. And we know 25 of the beagles have arrived to Paws Chicago. 25 of that 1,500 that were rescued there have arrived to Paws Chicago over the weekend. I believe this was Saturday when we got word of that. But I'm assuming that the beagles, the 1,500 that were rescued, have gone to many different places throughout the country. I guess, there's also the aspect of this where I'm wondering, do the people who have been protesting, are you hearing that they feel satisfied now that there's been some movement? I mean, this is a major movement, a major moment, but it seems like maybe their work would not be done in terms of calling for more changes there at that facility.
Great observation, and I think it's really the split feeling that a lot of the activists that have been working on this for years have, which is, on the one hand, emotions were extremely raw on Friday when some of these people saw for the first time, after a 9-year effort to raise attention about Ridgeland Farms, dogs were being released. There were tears, there were hugs, there were people jumping up and down. It really is a powerful moment. And to see the beagles running around in the receiving area where they were first being gathered on what they call a safe house. It's a farm in Marshall, Wisconsin, where they're being prepared to be sent out to all these different places. The emotions were raw. On the other hand, the number one comment I'm getting online every time I post about this, it just goes nuts. Thousands and thousands of comments and likes and views. I think we had one video that had 312,000 views. But the number one comment that I'm getting, other than this is wonderful, is what about the other 500 or more dogs that are still going to be at Ridgeland Farms? And the process of removing the 1,500, by the way, to be clear, is ongoing. It's not done. They've only gotten about 300 out so far. They've got another 1,200 to get out over the next 2 weeks, but that will leave 500 or more behind as part of the negotiated deal. The question is what happens to them, and there are a lot of people who are concerned about what happens to them. And under the law, they could be experimented on at Ridgeland Farms after July 1st. Now, between now and July 1st, Ridgeland Farms can still sell more dogs. They can sell them to laboratories. They could sell them to rescue organizations. They are allowed to do that under their state license until July 1st. We know the rescue organizations say they want more of these dogs, but for now they're focused on getting the first 1,500 out and maintaining an open line of communication with Ridgeland for the others. Ridgeland Farms may have existing contracts, likely does have existing contracts with laboratories that they still want to do work with those laboratories. They could sell dogs to the labs until July 1st, and then after July 1st, they'll be able to do in-house research on whatever dogs remain. They just can't sell them to anyone else to do research on their own. So they could continue breeding animals under the law. They could, but only for their own in-house research. They can continue doing that research, but the question is scale. They have been breeding thousands of animals a year for decades. It seems highly unlikely that that is going to continue for just in-house research, especially as there's this federal shift away from experimentation on dogs and cats. It feels, honestly, as we talk here, like Ridgeland's days of dog testing are numbered. Mm-hmm. The question is, how big is that number?
Yeah. And then just on a final note, have they pushed back at all on any of this? Have they released a statement trying to assuage any of this at any point in time?
Well, Ridgeland tends to communicate, to me anyway, only through statements. They have not agreed to a single on-camera interview in more than the last year. The only on-camera interview I've done was with Eric McLeod, their attorney, outside an agriculture, trade, and consumer protection hearing over the summer. But in their statements, one of the things, and actually, that's not true. I did speak to their PR person after the first open rescue attempt on March 15th. But they tend to communicate through statements, and those statements most recently have said, the dogs that were happy and well cared for here will now be happy and well cared for in loving homes. And, we're glad to see that. That's pretty much all they said. What I can tell you, though, is behind the scenes, Ridgeland Farms is extremely concerned about these rescue organizations saying anything as a part of this deal that would reflect negatively on Ridgeland Farms. So they have been very careful about controlling what is said. So these organizations have, to some degree, been muzzled because they can't necessarily speak freely about, let's say the dogs they're getting out of Ridgeland Farms aren't very well. Mm-hmm. If they're in poor condition, they don't want us, the media, to see that. They wouldn't even let us in the tent where they're giving them vaccinations and getting them microchipped, getting them screened, because of the risk that we might see something that would reflect negatively on Ridgeland, and that could spoil this very tentative deal. It was a difficult negotiation. It was on a razor's edge. I am told by those who were in the negotiations that at times it seemed like it was falling apart. At times it seemed like it was a go, and it was quite a roller coaster. So I think there's some real concern that Ridgeland Farms doesn't want to look bad here. And if they're going to go along with this deal, they're trying to control the message. Ultimately, their statement is that the dogs have been well cared for all along, and now they'll be well cared for in someone's home.
Well, Brian, wonderful speaking with you. Thank you for your continued efforts over the last year working on this. And again, I'm glad that it's raising the level of awareness throughout the country about what was going on there.
Yeah, it's been rewarding to see our coverage received so well and to get the attention that it has. There's still more to be done on this, and we'll be talking about it, particularly what's going on in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of conversation about the future of animal experimentation, especially experimentation on dogs and cats, and we'll be continuing to follow that.
Well, please come back when we get another major update. We'd appreciate it.
Anytime, I'm glad to.
Okay, all right, thank you. Take care. It's 1:19, everyone. Our next guest is already on the line, so give us 2 minutes, and we're going to bring in Alderman William Hall. welcome back, everyone. It's 1:21 right now. Yet again, we're hearing about a major business closing in an area that we would say has been disinvested in for many years. And there were several advocates, community leaders, elected officials who all called this morning on Walgreens to present a community-centered plan or reverse their decision to close their doors. I want to bring in Alderman William Hall from the 6th Ward now to talk a little bit more about this and maybe the bigger picture, because this by far is not the only business that we've seen go through this for this particular community. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, first of all, I do want to say thank you again for making space for us. It wasn't but 2, 3 weeks ago, we sat right there next to you to talk about spending the block. And so the idea of this neighborhood, which I am a resident of, broke is not true. There's been a complete disregard and disrespect. And so we've done our part in investing through TIF funds. That's the reason why the Walgreens is there. And so tax increment funding funded the startup of this Walgreens at this location. But the truth be told, they now are choosing to abandon us. This is what I believe is a classic example of first degree corporate abandonment. They knew they did not want to stay. They deceived us. They lied to us. We were never told that there was something wrong with, nor levels of income dropping beneath their expectation. Matter of fact, 75th and State, along with Cottage Grove, the last 2.5 years, I was told were performing well. This is, again, disingenuine leadership by Walgreens and the first degree corporate abandonment case that I believe is a detriment to the seniors and families in this ward.
So before this announcement that we are talking about right now, there was never a discussion about the fact that they were, 6 months ago possibly like having trouble or seeing some issues or may have to close. 3 months ago, it looks imminent. Nothing before then.
Nothing. I received what was considered a very disrespectful approach to communicating. It was a message left with my secretary, a message left on a random Thursday. No meeting, no future forecast, no concerns, none of that. Matter of fact, Walgreens gave us charity, which is, I guess, their way of dealing with their corporate abandonment crime. They gave us charity in the form of supporting Spending the Black, in which we've seen in the last 2 years over $2 million generated in deals and goods sold. And so we know that this neighborhood ain't broke. Walgreens, if there was an issue then, they should have said something. If it was concerns, they should have said something. But whether they decided to lie and deceive. Is there crimes all over the city of Chicago? Yes, two wrongs don't make a right. People are going into stores, driving cars into windows. People, desperate times, desperate measures. We don't celebrate the violence. We don't celebrate thieves. But what I do know is it is corporate abandonment that we are seeing that's stealing the dignity of our seniors. Today, we had people that had kidney transplants 2 times, depend on prescriptions there. We have a city worker, Daryl Smith, whose mother, lung transplant, compromised immune system. He has to go past 5 now abandoned Walgreens to get medicine for his mother. This is absurd. This is evil. And I think that Walgreens needs to give us an account because 12th and State Street had crime for real. 12th and State Street had issues with safety. Starbucks left. Sip and Savor left, but Walgreens stayed. So dangerous communities does not deter when it comes to 12th Street. So why all of a sudden is it different on 86th Street?
You make a good point there about some of the issues that maybe other Walgreens are facing. Not to say that they may not have issues there that could cause them to close up as well. They have not as of yet, but just like what you were hearing or not hearing in advance, obviously there was something going on in the underbelly that caused them to close now that we were not hearing about in advance. So, the other Walgreens could be having those same internal conversations.
We've seen from the 4th Ward, the 5th Ward, now the 6th Ward. It's literally a pharmaceutical drought that they're causing. Because on 12th and State Street, they redesigned to maintain the pharmacy and medical supplies. It is fine, operating, been in a war zone, mental health crisis, as well as a retail theft crisis, didn't falter. So the notion of innovation and redesigning, it can be done when they want to. So they no longer want to deal with black and brown people. It's disgusting and disingenuous.
So when you did receive word, did you immediately reach out and not hear anything back?
You
Or
know, when I received, the message in the afternoon before the evening came, their consultant consulted with me on things that were not necessarily true in their entirety. He was reading talking points and did not give us a plan other than in the next 30 days it will be closed. There will be free transportation to those who need to get pharmaceutical prescriptions dropped off to them. What about the 91st day? The employees will now be going to stores that are already overcrowded, in which is disingenuous as well, because no one's paying for the extra bus fare, extra transit fare. No one's taking into consideration the extra time. Just because someone lives in a neighborhood over here, it's not the same travel time to a neighborhood over there. So all of these things are just what they've forgotten about. While CEOs and Walgreens continue to have lavish lives, we're living in a hellhole dealing with a pharmaceutical drought.
the 90 days. So they have explain that a little bit more. You kind of glossed over it. Are they are going to provide 90 days of what is it? Prescription medicines that will be delivered, free delivery or something of that sort?
They say it is that those that need the delivery drop-off service, they'll drop it off to their homes. But again, they're going to do it for 90 days. What about the 91st day? And so one of the things that, again, what about our seniors? On the 91st day, Walgreens, what will seniors have? Absolutely nothing. And it's disingenuous that, those who have supported this Walgreens do TIF money. This Walgreens is here because of the taxes that residents had to pay for that shopping mall center. And so, again, Walgreens follows in the same suit as Walmart. Walmart came to 83rd Street, got what they wanted out the deal, blamed it on theft. Again, no innovation. And so, again, making black people look like the bad guy ain't necessarily the full truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And so what we want is, again, give us what you gave 12th Street. You gave 12th and State Street a new platform, a new opportunity for healthcare. This is now the 6th Walgreens in the last 3 years that have closed right here on the South Side. I find the irony of this that the 4th Ward, which is the birthplace of Walgreens, Bowen and 43rd Street, now we see that it is now the resting place, the cemetery of those things that those residents, my residents, and different residents throughout the city. So if they don't want to work with us, then why is 12th and State Street the only place that they want to work? And I believe that, in my opinion, that black and brown residents, older, don't matter. And they're showing where they find their opportunity, and it's not with us.
So
A shame on them.
what is the closest Walgreens now that this one is closing? What's the closest Walgreens to it? And is it in your
Well,
ward?
What we found out from people like Daryl Smith and other residents, just because you have one on 75th Street doesn't mean that they have the medicine in stock. Doesn't mean that they carry the supplies. So what would seem like a mile away could be 10 miles away. Again, Daryl Smith, I use him as an example, city worker, mother, lung collapse, immune system compromised. He was once on 63rd and King Drive. That closed. Another location, 47 Ash, closed. So now you're expanding the parameter further south, further west, in areas in which, again, what used to be a 5-minute drive now is a 30-minute drive. God forbid that there's no access to a car, you got to use public transportation. So the calculation of this is not only just not adding up, but is again showing that Walgreens is not willing to invest in black people. That's disgusting, disingenuous, and they can change this right their own by designing this just like 12 and State Street. Give us 5 years. Show us what a pilot program on the South Side looks like. And I believe that these residents would never fail because we're not a broke people, but without pharmaceutical medicine, you're breaking the backs of seniors.
I'm asking you this again because we do have people in the chat that are saying there's one on 87th. Is that correct? And you are correct that they may not have the same medication. That is right.
Absolutely. So the closest one is 87th and Stony. The other one is on 75th Street and State Street. Again, that is 8 blocks right there. That's 1 mile. Then it's over 2.5 miles going back to 75th Street. That's if the medicine or the supplies are at that location. And so again, there are so many stories, as heard this morning, of residents having to go to so far because that Walgreens didn't have it or they closed the Walgreens. So the roadmap is drying up where people can go. If they did it on 87th Street, it's the only amount of time that they do it on 75th Street, close the Walgreens. They close, as we see, a roadmap in the 5th Ward, 71st and Jeffrey, 79th and Jeffrey. I mean, the list goes on how they close these within a square mile of each other. And then they hurt the small businesses. Everyone in neighborhoods thought Walgreens was the best option. Black-owned pharmacies closed, except for one. 200 Pharmacy is the last remnant left. So Walgreens positioned themselves as the better option for the family. Now they're leaving. We have no option.
Yeah, I remember speaking with the owners of 200 Pharmacy. They have been going strong, and they did talk about how many other black-owned pharmacies were there, present many years ago versus the very few that have survived over time because of the larger pharmacies that have come along, like a Walgreens. Let me ask you this. For years, there have been people who have been very critical of TIF funds. So are you maybe saying now you agree that they don't actually work?
Well, I inherited this TIF. And so what we inherited again in this sixth ward are two big boxes that have broken the back and broken their promises. Target is in this TIF, gone. Walgreens, gone. Matter of fact, on 83rd Street, there was a whole TIF built around Walmart, gone. And so there's a piece of legislation that I intend to support by my colleague, Lamont Robinson of the 4th Ward, who has a Walgreens that closed on 35th and King Drive, that hints to the idea of a refund. Give us the funds back that you took back through these investments. And so we work through those in the days to come. It's been sitting in purgatory. And so maybe it's time to bring it back to the floor, because what we see time and time again is that Black residents are loyal to big boxes until the big box doesn't want to play in the sandbox. And so we're done with this. We're tired, we're frustrated, but we're resilient people. And I just want to encourage those in the ward who have seen Target leave, Walmart leave, now Walgreens leave. Now is the time in which I believe the innovation coupled with the new generation of residents will build something that will bless this part of our community. And again, shame on Walgreens for starting again the pharmacy drought on the south side.
Well, I'm certainly hoping that there are some solutions for the folks who live there as well. And as we've discussed, yes, there's crime in lots of different areas, but I think we can do two things at once here. And I know that a lot of people will say, well, what about the crime in the area? What are you doing to lower the crime in the area that may have some of these businesses wondering not just about their operation, but also their employees who are coming to the operation?
Again, I don't like the idea, and I want to tell the truth about this situation because we're trying to paint people, as we saw Walgreens do, as baboons, people that are uncivil. Again, when 12th and State Street had issues with mental health crises along with retail theft, Walmart did not abandon. They redesigned and they innovated. Why isn't this same effort shown to the people that have held this store down for over 20 years? It's a choice. Walgreens has some of the best minds, AI technology, in which they can redesign the store to couple with the fact that desperate times equal desperate measures. I'm not celebrating crime. I'm not making an excuse for retail theft. As one who worked in retail myself, I've seen the trends and what it has lended to. You cut jobs because now you don't have much product to sell and you have a smaller imprint space. Again, to have access to medicine for our seniors is what we're saying. Get rid of the retail experience. We have enough small mom and pop stores that have some of those same items that Walgreens have, and it might be room now for a new business to come into the community that can sell that. We're not ignorant of how to have our own pharmacies. We're not ignorant of how to have our own corner stores. What has happened is that big boxes have cut out access, cornered the market, made it harder for small guys to do big business. And so what we're saying and what we will see in the sixth ward is a resilience shown by our residents. And we will be our own innovation if Walgreens does not want to give us what they gave Chicagoans on 12th and State Street. Give us the same innovative effort that you gave 12th and State Street, and then we can call it even.
But 12th and State Street may have more police presence in the area.
No, they don't. Matter of fact, 12th and State Street was one of the most feared stops on the red line. People stop, matter of fact, getting off the train there. Let's look at the data. There is serious crime on 12th Street. Starbucks left, Sip and Savor left, and every tenant, Starbucks and Sip and Savor, said that there needs to be a mental health resources given in this part of Chicago. So 12th and State Street is a dark place.
I'm
12th and
asking.
State Street has the history of it. So if they
I'm
can
asking because when we spoke with
innovate,
Sheriff Dart, we spoke with Sheriff Dart about an operation that they specifically had in that area because of the complaints. Yes, you were correct. The
again, let's
complaints
talk
that were
about this
coming from
5
that
to
area.
7 years ago. These problems on 12th and State Street did not happen in the last 2 years. These problems happened and they redesigned years ago to address a same issue that they haven't resolved. So again, if you use 86 and Cottage Grove as your springboard to this case study, then my thing is, why didn't they adapt and innovate the same way that they did on 12th and State Street? If it's just that bad. And so what is bad is the lack of innovation and investment shown by Walgreens to curb and still care. And so they don't care about seniors, they don't care about elders. And when the corporate leaders that was there today, they could have came out to talk to the community. They chose to look at it through a glass. They chose to look at seniors sitting in chairs with prescriptions through a glass. So that's the type of leadership that Walgreens wants to show in the midst of the crisis and drought that they started.
Well, I'm certainly hoping that we hear more, whether it's you and Alderman Robinson, who come to the forefront with some type of resolution for the TIF funds, but more resolutions for the people in the area in terms of what they're going to do now. Like you said, after the 90 days are over, of the things that have been promised to kind of make a transition. I'm hoping that there will be more that comes from that. So please keep us updated. Please let us know what happens from here.
Thank you so much for being our friend.
Always appreciate having you on the show. Thank you. It's 1:38, everyone. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be back. We are looking to a conversation with the Oaklawn Village manager next about some of the burglaries that have been happening there. All right, we're back at 1:40 right now, and it's true, as we were just speaking with Alderman Hall, that crime isn't it's not confined to one particular area. What one area may see may be different from another area. Some of them may be experiencing the very same things, but in Oaklawn, for instance, they're dealing with several video game terminal burglaries. And so we've asked the Oaklawn Village manager, Tom Phelan, to join us. Thank you so much for being here, and sorry it's under these circumstances.
That's okay. Happy to be here.
Let's just paint the picture for people as to what the last couple of weeks have been like in your area, what you've been seeing there.
Yeah, it goes back further than a couple of weeks. It's been several months, I think, even going back into the latter part of last year, where we started to see these organized gangs target our video gaming establishments, our restaurants and bars that had video gaming, usually in the early hours of the morning, in what can only be described as a almost military style attack, where they're in and out in under minutes, causing an extensive amount of damage to the restaurant bar, certainly the gaming terminals that they break into, the ATM machines, and usually gone before police can arrive. And on those occasions when police do arrive, these and they're usually in stolen vehicles, many times armed, because they have been caught on occasion, and there have been guns found in these cars. But they take off at high rates of speed, likely because they know there won't be pursuit. And if they are caught, unfortunately, the revolving door that we're seeing here, they're usually out the next day. So they're, from a risk reward perspective, unfortunately, the reward is significant. We're told millions of dollars have been stolen over the last several months. And I think the last number I saw, our police chief said there's been more than 300 of these in the Chicago area since last October.
Oh, wow. Okay. And are we seeing the activity move from one neighborhood to the next? I mean, like what you all are seeing, have you been tracking it where okay, well, they just had 3 in, this part of the city before they got to your area?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that there's some pattern that's recognizable, but they tend to, target areas that are contiguous, our town and our neighboring communities. Then we might see them move out further south or southeast and hit a couple of there. So they, generally do seem to work in what I would call bunches. And our police department has been working with both the federal and state agencies on some task force. We have some equipment that we deploy out into the community that we put out near our gaming facilities. We move them around. You're talking significant manpower hours. Last count, we had more than 100 hours of police time spent on these, both in the response and the investigation. Thousands of dollars in damages to our businesses, millions of dollars, not just in Oklahoma, but community-wide or Chicagoland area-wide. Again, the number I heard something akin to $100 million plus, because there's so much money in these machines. And it's really becoming concerning, not just because of the monetary issue, but the danger of these groups fleeing as they are, likely going to hit somebody, hopefully not hurt or kill anybody. But I think it's a matter of time before that happens.
Oh, my. Well, obviously, we never want that to happen. I mean, you can rebuild your business. You can't bring back a life. I would like to know, video game terminals have long been controversial. Were you a proponent of bringing them? What are your thoughts on having them now, or are you starting to change your feelings, maybe if you were a proponent in the beginning?
Well, ironically, I was a sitting trustee, an elected official in Oklahoma when it was introduced in 2006, and I was on record as being against it. I used to work in college at some bars in Champaign-Urbana, what we would call the townie bars, where it's sort of a mixture of the undergrads and the townies, and they had these gaming terminals. Of course, then they were not legal, but if it happened once, it happened a dozen times, where somebody came in and blew their paycheck. And, the young mother comes in on Monday with the baby in tow saying, where's my husband's money? And the money, unfortunately, is in these machines. So I made those very statements in the meetings in 2006 and 7 when the terminal operators came to the villages to push for these. I was in a minority. It was approved. I was another person, along with Trustee Paul Mallow. We introduced a push tax in Oklahoma 5 years ago, a penny a push, to put toward, and this was before all these problems started. But if you know how the gaming revenue is divided, the municipality really got left out in the cold. We get 5% of it, and we do 95% of the heavy lifting. no slight to the state, who gets almost a third and is asking for more. They have a board that approves and revokes licenses, and that's about it from my perspective. We have to provide policing, public works, infrastructure, and we get 5%. So I think this would be a particularly good time. The terminal operators have been suing us since 2020 when we passed this legislation, this push tax, a penny a push, 1 penny. I don't play the games, but we determined that the average person who sits down for an hour or two may push it 200 times. And we didn't think $2 was an exorbitant fee for someone who's willing to, gamble $100, $200. But the terminal operators, those that, lease the machines and put them into our facilities and make millions of dollars, they thought that was exorbitant, have been suing us since 2020.
Oh, wow. So what is the sentiment at this point in time? Now that you're starting to see this type of activity, you're on the record as being against them from the beginning. They're suing you all. So it's not necessarily, an amicable situation. But I know that a lot of business owners, small business owners, when they were, when the terminals were kind of on the chopping block or up in the air, let's say, a lot of small business owners spoke up to say this was a little of something that they needed for their businesses.
Yeah, you're 1,000% correct. That's the toughest part. I mean, they used to say that the toughest business out there was a restaurant bar. 50% of them failed in the first year. This type of revenue stream, there's no doubt about it. It doesn't require any labor. Up until recently, there was no issues. People put the money in. The gaming company comes and takes it out and gives the bar owner its share. And, it was pretty well contained. And again, you could be for or against it, but you can't argue with the fact that it really helped the small businesses stay afloat, pay the bills. So I can't dispute that and would not. I'm personally, have relationships with people in town who own restaurants and bars, and the last thing we want to do is hurt them. But there's a point, and I don't know that we're not getting close to it, where somebody getting hurt or killed over these things. I don't even think some of our restaurant owners would argue that. We don't want to see that happen. We'd like to see some effort on behalf of the gaming companies, perhaps, to some of the things we've been asking about is cashless transactions. I think there's some talk of maybe doing that. More frequent pickups so that there's not a lot of cash in these machines, providing our businesses with money to install security shutters and other things. So, we're waiting to see that happen. But in the meantime, it's really causing a lot of havoc for our community.
Well, I hate to see it, but I really do hope that those conversations pick up. The cashless option seems like an easy fix, but I'm not sure how much that would cost in making that swap.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for alerting us to what's happening. I mean, do you want to let people know, like, if they've heard about some of this, what they should do? Or, I mean, is there some way that someone they should be contacting?
Well, we've been in communication with our businesses in town, and they know that we're committed to helping out. I mean, we do have a significant number of them, 50 to 60 on average, depending on somebody opening and closing. Our police can't be everywhere, but we're making, good efforts to patrol, increase patrols, put that equipment out there to monitor and maintain. But again, when you're talking about very well organized, almost military type operation, in and out in 5 minutes, it's difficult. And again, I don't want to, harbor on the fact that when you think of burglaries, you're thinking of somebody sneaking into your garage and stealing your kid's bike. These aren't burglaries. These are violent crimes committed by violent offenders, and they don't have any fear of being caught. And if they do get caught, they're in and out. So something has to change, not only on the the business side of things, but on I would say the state level and how these things are treated. And the Safety Act that we keep hearing more and more about, these people that just don't care. And when you're talking about the kind of money that they can make with very little consequence, I don't ever suggest you can understand why they do it, but there is a heck of a risk reward there, and we need to do something to take that away.
Hopefully something will change so that they're not getting as much reward for risking everyone's lives, quite honestly, in the future. Thank you so much. Please keep us up to date.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
It's about 1:51, everyone. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and then I'll let you know about some of the things that are trending on our website. Welcome back, everyone. It's 1:53 right now. I'm going to tell you about some of the things that are trending on our website in just a moment here, but we have a live picture up in Los Angeles. Oh, it's a little further back than it was just a second ago in the break, but if you see some movement, okay, they're starting to zoom in. We were tracking a bear on the loose, everybody. We were a little concerned as it was getting close to a dog that was in someone's backyard, but it was starting to, it went over a fence in someone's backyard, and it looked like it got into maybe a shed that was in the backyard or something. It's a pretty large bear. So if you see movement, that's the bear, but it looks like maybe he's gone on in that shed, probably having a good time in the shed, getting into something. Yeah, can't really see him now. If he pops out, we'll go back to that picture, but let me tell you about our web trenders while we're waiting to get a better shot of the bear there. And I'm not sure exactly what the effort is to get the bear safely out of there, but we'll go back to it if we get a better picture. All right, so on our website, a couple of the things that are trending right now. We have Sony PlayStation lawsuit. A lot of people looking at this online. Gamers, we know there's a lot of you out there, may qualify for $7.85 million in this settlement. And so we have a what to know back, the kind of deep dive here as to what you can look for, what you can hope for, maybe if this applies to you. A judge is going to consider final approval on this in October, but as of right now, Sony has agreed to this proposed $7.85 million settlement over PlayStation Store pricing claims. They are denying any wrongdoing, but they are agreeing to the settlement here. So eligible gamers can receive payments with a July 2nd, 2026 deadline to act. So if you need to know whether you qualify or what to do, should you qualify, we have the full breakdown here. With Sony Interactive Entertainment agreeing to this major settlement here in a federal antitrust class action suit. Okay, you can only see I think that's the back side there. Okay, yeah, there's the movement. There's the bear. We've been pretty fascinated from here, but I'm sure if anyone's getting close, if anybody's in that house, they are not so fascinated. That is a huge bear in their backyard. Now, I can tell you that they've had several bear sightings in the area as of late in the last couple of days, because when I was looking for information about this particular one, I found a couple of others. They're in LA, so I'm not sure if they are. Oh, he's going back over the fence. He didn't find what he was looking for, apparently, so he's still on the hunt here. But in an area called Shadow Hills in Los Angeles, they had a bear in that area just yesterday. Large bear spotted at Hanson Dam Park in the San Fernando Valley area. So they have had a couple of large bears, or is it one on the move? I'm not sure. But we have had several bear sightings, I should say, in the last couple of days there in the Los Angeles area. So hoping everyone's okay. They definitely have the surveillance there. There he is, or she, not sure. Just looking for a good place to sleep, maybe. Not sure, but I'm glad that the dogs are out of the way. We were a little concerned a short while ago. So they have surveillance up, but haven't caught it. Maybe it's going to be able to get back home, wherever their home actually is. But for now, just kind of meddling around, looking for a good meal, a good place to rest. As long as the people and the animals are out of the way, I'm all right. It's on the move. Not sure where it's off to. They always tell people, if you live in areas where, you're not far from bear activity, you have to put your trash up, make sure the doors are locked. Bears can actually open doors. They can open car doors. They can open home doors. So they have to make sure that those things are put up so it doesn't kind of invite them in, because usually they're just looking for some easy food. And make sure that the small animals are out of the way as well. So again, this is happening in LA, and as we zoom out, oh, there he goes across the street. You can see that when we zoomed out, you could see that there were some police cars on either end of that street. So they're making sure that, the people are out of the way. I'm sure they're just kind of hoping it finds its way back to its home, maybe in some hills or forestry that's not too far from there. But, uh-oh, I see someone on a bike. You want to get out of there. Lots of police on the ground. Again, they are looking for.
Well, they got Fish and Game. They were over at Hanson Dam because that's where this guy was seen earlier this morning. So, or we think it is. I'm pretty sure it's the same bear. And so they were there and they were setting up to capture the bear. They've got the trailer. We've seen it in the past where they'll tranquilize him, wait till he's out, and then or her. And then they put him in the trailer. And I have a feeling that that's the plan, but it's like, how do you tranquilize this guy? He's kind of awake. He's awake and he's on the move. He's not sleeping in a tree anymore. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to big game hunt this guy. Keep an eye on him. You got the law enforcement right there. But, yeah, and that hat says Fish and Game right there, or wildlife. So keep an eye out. I didn't see him. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we were able to listen into some of their communications there. Again, they said that's Fish and Game, the ones that have the hats on. This, again, is in Los Angeles, everyone. I do not want you to think this is here in Chicago. This is in Los Angeles, where we have just been a little fascinated with the bear that's on the loose there and the operation to try to get the bear back to its home, wherever that may be, and peacefully for everyone who's in this neighborhood. I mentioned a short while ago that, I wasn't sure location-wise whether this was close to some of the other bear sightings that they've had recently. recently, but they did confirm, actually, one of the ones that I mentioned to you, they do believe this is the same bear. So there was a large bear that caused police to evacuate the Hansen Dam Park in the San Fernando Valley on Sunday evening. It was seen in at least 3 trees in the recreation area, and the park was closed following those sightings. And they said at the time it was unclear when that area would be reopening to the public. No injuries were reported, but the California Department of Fish and Wildlife was responding to that area. Well, now they're in this area, and they do believe that it's the same bear that's now gotten into some brush near several homes in the area. Lots of law enforcement that's out there, though, right now. Again, the same bear that they saw near a park. They had taped off a library last night as well. They do believe this is the same very large bear. They're going to try to tranquilize it at some point and rehome it back to the area where they think it may have come from. But it's been on the loose, and now it's gotten into some of the brush there. So not sure who the brave soul that's going to walk up in there is going to be, but everyone's standing back at the moment. It looks like they are looking for the opportunity to at least get close enough to possibly tranquilize it. But poor thing, maybe it's just a little confused right now. It's not taking anybody out. No injuries have been reported yet. And we're hoping that it stays that way. So it is 2:02, everyone. If we get some new information about, again, that search for the bear there in Los Angeles, we will let you know. But let's take a 2-minute break here and regroup for our second hour. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's about 2:05. Let me tell you what we have lined up for the second hour here. We're going to talk about e-scooter safety. Obviously, it's a beautiful day outside today in Chicagoland, and everyone wants to be out and about. And even though this weather will take a turn, it's that time of year where we don't get the sun out for very long. We know that at some point in time, we will get around to summertime shy, all of those good things, and more time for people to be out and about. Well, there are several lawmakers right now that just want to make sure that when you do get out, that you're safe, and especially for our young people who love to get on those scooters and e-bikes, that you're safe. And so they want to raise some awareness right now. Also, I'll let you know about some of the other things that we're watching on our website website. I can tell you that we just got in a statement from Brookfield Zoo Chicago. We have seen workers outside of Brookfield Zoo Chicago, I believe as of 5 a.m. this morning, out picketing in front of the zoo. So I'll give you the information from Brookfield Zoo Chicago that they just sent into us momentarily here. But we're going to start off this hour with a conversation that's had a lot of people scratching their heads as to how this happened. But 3 people are dead. At least 3 others are sick after a suspected outbreak of the Hantavirus aboard a cruise ship in the Atlantic Ocean. This is according to the World Health Organization. But we have infectious disease doctor, Dr. Graham Forrest from Rush U Health, who is joining me now to explain what Hantavirus is and how something like this could have happened. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, but I hate to hear about these poor folks going through so much, and the families of those who, went, I'm sure, excitedly on a cruise and never thought something like this would happen. So let's start with just what is Hantavirus?
It's a virus that lives in rodents, especially rats and mice, and gets excreted in their urine. Usually doesn't affect them at all, and it's usually just lives in their environment, and so they live with it. And there's certain viruses, family of this virus, from around the world. So the ones that they see in Africa and Europe causes hemorrhagic fever and kidney failure, where the ones we see here in the United States, like in the Southwest, usually causes the pulmonary syndrome, which is much more fatal. However, unfortunately, in this case, it appears to be quite aggressive for these poor people on the cruise ships.
Oh my goodness, aggressive for sure, because they had not been out for that long. So what are the signs, and how quickly do you have to get some medical attention?
Very quickly, because this causes what we call hemorrhagic fever, which means you start bleeding from all your organs, like the kidneys and the lungs. So how it was obtained is probably through closed spaces in a poorly ventilated area. So like a cabin on a cruise ship is a perfect spot. And rats and mice get on cruise ships through when they're moored at harbors and things like that. And usually they should be taken care of before the cruise goes out. And so if they're in the air supply, the urine and everything concentrates, and then you breathe it in. And that's when it starts to get into your bloodstream. You can feel like a very bad flu virus, your muscles ache, and then once you start getting into that bleeding stage is when you need to seek medical care very quickly. Unfortunately, we don't have any treatments right now. It's a virus that we don't have any active antivirals for. And so it needs to be supportive care like blood products, dialysis, and respiratory support if that needs to be the case.
Oh my goodness. And this ship went through Argentina. According to the Maritime Traffic ship tracking site, they made stops in Antarctica before returning, stopped in British overseas territory. So would this be one of those situations where this was likely on board when they got on board, or something that they possibly contracted in one of these sites, maybe where they stopped for a while and then got back on board? Like how does that happen?
Well, it'd be less likely to be off the ship. This is extremely rare. We're talking about a really rare event. And so I've never heard of this happening on a cruise ship. I've seen cases with the American version from like the Yosemite outbreak back in 2014, where people are in their cabins and there are several people who died there. But this would probably be when usually closed spaces where there's mouse urine or rat urine, and it can be concentrated and aerosolized. And so being out on the streets and things would be really unlikely. Antarctica, definitely not. Too cold for the rats. And so usually a dry environment, and being in a small closed cabin and aerosolized. So that would be the main thing. So it was probably on the boat. Where it came on the boat, I can't tell you that. But given that there's a lot of, as I said, mice and rats that can get on the boats, but when they're moored, they just climb up those ropes onto the boat. It's a possibility from that.
Oh, goodness. And once one person gets it in the cabin, is it easy to then give it to the next person? Human to human contact? I mean, or is that each person would be picking it up from the mice excretion somehow?
It's extremely rare for human to human. There's been just that one reported case, and that was usually because someone's giving them a breathing tube or very close contact. This is because you're breathing the same air in those cabins, or in the ventilation system that's blowing through the cabins. Now, if you don't have the doors and windows open, then you're just concentrating the virus and inhaling it. So it should not be person to person.
I mean, it's so scary, but what you're saying makes sense as to why we're seeing like a husband and wife that would have become, fatally ill.
Exactly. And as we heard from about, I think, last year or so with the Gene Hackman case, with his wife and dog dying of the Hantavirus, they were in a closed cabin down in New Mexico. And that's how they obtained it, from the rat droppings and the rat urine in that area.
And I was trying to think of, there was a very high profile case having to do with the Hantavirus recently. You're correct. That's what it was.
Yes. Yeah, and then again, this is the New World Hantavirus, so it causes the pulmonary one, and it has a really high mortality when we see it, it's over 60%. The Old World one is supposed to have lower mortality, but as I said, unfortunately, these people didn't get to care quick enough, and they had kidney failure and probably bled out somewhere.
Oh, that sounds absolutely awful. And do you think that, I'm not sure what this cruise line has said about how they believe this could have happened, but is this a matter of just these ships needing to be cleaned better?
Yes, it's really hard to get rid of all the mice and rats off a ship, but I assume they must have policies and processes to take care of it, especially at some of the ports they go to. So I just don't know their policy, so I can't tell you exactly, but I'm pretty sure most would have a good protocols for these things.
So scary. Thank you so much for joining us to talk a little bit about it. Again, we don't hear about the Hantavirus very often, but when it does pop up, as you said, it's rare. So when it does pop up, you just think like, where did this come from? And, how do we prevent it?
It wouldn't have been on my list of things to get on a cruise. It's usually norovirus or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is rather unique, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of investigations.
Yeah, that are just beginning. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Take care. It's 2:14, everyone. Is the bear still on the loose? Bear is still on the loose out in Los Angeles. Looks like they're just trying to block off the area and make sure while it's in that brush that there aren't any humans or other animals that are nearby waiting for it to make its move. But maybe it's just getting a little rest. It was on the run a short while ago. So let's take a 2-minute break, everyone, and we'll be right back. 2:16 right now, everyone. Thanks so much for staying with us. I promised you I was going to give you the response that we just got in from Brookfield Zoo, Chicago, pertaining to the strike that's taking place, the picketing that's taking place outside of their establishment, starting at about 5 o'clock this morning. And so I just want to read this to you in full before we move on to our next conversation here on the show. And they say, Brookfield Zoo, Chicago wants to be clear, we are not taking away health care from our employees. The zoo does not administer or control the health care plan for Teamsters Local 727 employees. That plan is managed through the Teamsters Health and Welfare Fund, which covers employees across multiple employers. For decades, our role, like other contributing employers, has been to negotiate and provide contributions to that fund on behalf of our employees. And throughout that process, the zoo has continued to propose meaningful contributions to support employees' health care coverage, consistent with longstanding practice. We do not believe that the contribution levels in question we have offered are insufficient, and based on available information, they appear to be in line with, or in some cases higher than, what other employees contribute to the same fund. We have repeatedly asked for detailed information from the union to better understand their claims regarding healthcare cost and fund sufficiency. To date, those requests have not been met with the level of transparency needed to fully evaluate or validate those assertions. What remains unchanged is our commitment to our employees. We are working in good faith to reach a fair and responsible agreement, one that continues to support competitive wages and affordable, sustainable healthcare coverage. That, again, is coming from Brookfield Zoo, Chicago, as a response to the picketing that's happening there outside of their establishment today. We were hearing from the union earlier today as they were hoping that there would be continued negotiations going on. This is Brookfield Zoo, Chicago, responding as we've been putting in calls, as we've been hearing more from the union as they have been outside today. So we're going to continue to follow up on that. You will hear much more in our later shows as we have reporters who are working on that story today. It is a big one for our area. But we want to talk also about a big story nationally, and that is Spirit Airlines ceasing operations after a financial collapse. And what happens now, not just for Spirit, but for everybody else, you know, whether it's other airlines or whether it's the customers who maybe were getting ready for summer travel that are kind of like, what do I do now? So we have Summer Hull from the Point Sky. Summer is the Senior Director of Content. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, thank you for having me.
What is your response to hearing about this? I don't know, would we call it a slow demise of Spirit?
Well, it's been building for some time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've had 2 bankruptcy filings, in the last couple of years. And there were some whispers in late 2025 that their end was near, and they made it through those, but of course weren't able to continue operations past this past weekend. So this was sudden in some ways, and that it's been a long time since we've seen a major U.S. airline cease operations like this. And there wasn't a lot of advance notice on the exact date. But on the other hand, as you sort of alluded to, this had been building for some time, and Spirit had been struggling for a number of years.
Yeah, they tried to unite with JetBlue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talks with Frontier were going on. And then that switched to JetBlue, and then of course that one did not end up happening either. So yeah, but there's been different rumblings of different mergers for them over the years.
And then there was a conversation about the government possibly rescuing them.
Yeah, there was. I mean, up until kind of the last absolute second, there was that possibility dangling out there. Of course, that did not come to pass either for a number of reasons, including some of the, existing entities involved with Spirit Airlines feeling like they would be bumped to the back of the line if the U.S. government did come in, and ultimately they had to cease operations. So that did not come to pass either. And unfortunately, Spirit Airlines, as we knew them, is no more.
Well, now it seems like the customers are who've been bumped to the end of the line.
Yeah, I mean, they ceased operations, right? There's no rebooking, there's no customer service, there's nothing. Other than, this wasn't guaranteed, but Spirit Airlines did have a fund available that they say refunds are processing for people who booked their tickets directly with Spirit on a debit or credit card. And there was no guarantee that that was going to be such a simple process as they say it will be. Now, I booked a ticket with Spirit on Friday to be ready to walk people through this process if it happened, and I have not seen a refund yet, but hopefully that will be coming in the coming days. But beyond that, there was nothing Spirit's able to offer. However, it is great news that some of the other airlines have stepped up with rescue fares starting at $99 each way.
Yeah, explain how the rescue fares work. If someone has bought a ticket in advance for travel this summer with Spirit, what do they do now?
Yeah, so some of the rescue fares are only valid for travel through Wednesday. So these really were largely for people who were in the middle of the trip or about to go on one. But a couple of them that are the easiest to use, JetBlue is $99 each way for proof of Spirit ticket. And that one you do need to call JetBlue to book. Southwest Airlines is offering flights starting at $200 each way. You do have to book those in person at the airport. So actually my favorite one is United Airlines, which is $199 each way. You can book it online with proof of a Spirit ticket, and that one is valid through May 16th. There's a few others out there as well who've capped fares, but those three are the flat rate tickets that might be the best places to start.
Wow, and that's a really big caveat that it's only if you have travel like within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, beyond that, you really do have to now not only keep an eye out for your refund. So if you don't see that appear in the next few days on your credit card, I would go ahead and initiate a dispute on your credit card, because there is a timeline for these things for your credit card protections to kick in. So if by the end of the week you're not seeing that refund, I would log on to my credit card account, find that charge from Spirit, and hit dispute to start the process. But beyond that, you are now looking at just rebooking your ticket and paying market fares if your flights are kind of beyond that mid-May timeline. So you're going to want to use all the tricks in the book. Use Google Flight to find the cheapest flights, track your fares, and I would go ahead and start looking for flights all the way into the fall. And that's a little further than we normally would recommend booking domestic tickets. But there's all these tools these days. I just used one called Junova that will track your existing reservations and try to get you a credit on the airline if the price drops, which makes it kind of risk-free to go ahead and lock in some tickets.
Wow. We just had a poll for our viewers this morning on Good Day Chicago, where we asked them about what is their biggest worry about flights now over the next few months, and they said the price. I mean, when you have one budget airline that goes under, are we expecting I think we were already talking about the possibility of prices escalating because of the gas prices, fuel prices right now. So is this gonna, escalate things that much more?
Yeah, your viewers are absolutely right to have that as the number one concern right now for travel. It is mine as well. And like you mentioned, we were already seeing higher prices this summer, between 10 to 30%, largely because of the increased cost of fuel. That was before Spirit Airlines ceased operations. And so what we've seen in the past when Spirit just pulled out of an individual market is that the tickets in that market could sometimes increase as much as 20%. So only time will tell what will happen now that they've ceased operations across the country. But most people are not expecting prices to go down as a result. They are expecting prices to go up somewhat, especially potentially in those markets where Spirit was a more major player. Now, it's possible Frontier, JetBlue may have a lot of incentive, at least in the short run, to try to woo flyers onto their airlines and offer good prices. But when you have 100 less aircraft in the sky, it's likely that that's going to lead to higher prices.
Okay, explain this to me. I'm seeing that you can still make purchases with your Spirit Airlines credit card. So if people have a Spirit Airlines credit card, even though the company has gone under, the credit card is still valid?
It is. It's issued by Bank of America, and thankfully Bank of America is still very much in operation, even though Spirit Airlines is not. And so, we've been in contact with Bank of America at the Points Guide to try to find out what is going to happen to those cards now. And we're awaiting an exact response. But the credit card itself, my understanding is it does still work. Personally, I would not be using it more than you need to right now, because obviously the rewards you're earning on it, Spirit miles are not a currency you're probably going to want to have in your pocket now. I'm sure Bank of America will have some communications coming to those customers soon and a plan, but in the short run, if you're using it to rack up miles and you have another option in your wallet, you might want to use that other option.
And who do you think is going to benefit the most from this collapse?
Well, hopefully it'll be JetBlue and Frontier. Most of those airlines have had trouble posting a profit in recent years, and more competition is a good thing. So I'm very much rooting for them to come out stronger on the other side of this, able to pick up some routes and some gates that Spirit obviously no longer is going to be using. And so hopefully they will come out stronger. You know, I don't think that it's going to be the consumer that comes out better in this, but in the long run, if those airlines are able to be boosted by this opportunity, then that does serve us somewhat well as travelers.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you mentioned JetBlue and Frontier, are we seeing the collapse of budget airlines overall?
I mean, the market has changed a lot since those pre-pandemic years when Spirit was really profitable and the envy of some airlines in the way that they operated. Things have changed a lot. You know, the major carriers now have basic economy fares that compete, and what the travelers want out of a traveling experience has evolved some. But there certainly still is a market for people who just want to get from point A to point B as cheap as possible. And so I very much hope that those airlines are able to continue all the efforts they're doing to try to woo over those customers in a sustainable way. And so while they have, you know, there are airlines that have had some financial difficulties in the last few years other than Spirit. Spirit was in the worst position of all of them. And so as a traveler, I'm crossing my fingers that things come out well for all the other airlines.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the name of the last budget airline that I remember going under. What is the last one that you can remember? I feel like it was in like the 20 teens.
Yeah, so, you know, the last humongous U.S. airline to cease operations really was Pan Am. But we did see a number of airlines, both post 9/11 there was trouble, and then in 2008. And then there's been some smaller ones since then who have ceased operations. The name's escaping now, but they had the pink planes in Florida. So there have been a few along the way, but this really is not something that happens commonly. And I think that's why it feels so abrupt, and because it is a major thing to have happen here in the U.S.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people here are thinking Midway Airlines out of Chicago would have been another one that, you know, you see pop up and then go under. It's horrible anytime you see it, but yeah, it did feel like this has been coming for a while for Spirit. I'm sure everyone was hoping they would turn something around. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, take care. It's just about 2:30, everyone. Give us 2 minutes, we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. 2:31. We're going to continue this conversation from a different angle on Spirit Airlines. We actually have Laura Mandeli from United Airlines who is joining us. We were just talking about the fares, the special fares that maybe some people will be able to get from other airlines. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think it's a crisis fare.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share information on that. We actually call it a capped fare, and what that fare is, it caps the market. So certain markets that you can fly on, we actually cap the market. So it could be $199 domestically, and then $299 for international.
Mm-hmm. And so for someone to get one with United, what's your best advice to them right now?
Oh, so actually, our app, our United app, is an award-winning application, and all they have to do is go on to united.com/special reservation or special fares, and they just have to have a proof of purchase on Spirit. So they can just take a quick picture and upload it, and then it gets them to be eligible for that capped fare.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, I mean, we were saying with the points guy a moment ago that you could kind of see Spirit Airlines struggling for a while. United, you all have been adding over the last several months. So explain to me like what you feel the state of the industry is right now.
Regarding Spirit and having with the shutdown of Spirit, or just in general?
In general, but you can also speak about, I mean, this specific, like the impact of this specific incident, but the greater, like what is going on in the industry?
Yeah, I would say it's so unfortunate that our colleagues in Spirit, that this happened, because whether you work for United or work for Spirit, we're all airline people and we all care about each other. So what we're doing is when these sort of things happen, we really try to make it easy for the Spirit customers to book on United. And then they can actually experience a different experience in the air. We've got a really great fleet, new updated airplanes, a lot of good stuff on board our aircraft. The seat backs have like the video that they can watch TV on, or they can we actually have Bluetooth too, so they can stream that way. But it's unfortunate, but it's not rare in our industry. So and we kind of saw this happening. I know the points guy was talking about this too. When these sort of things happen, they start pulling out of different markets. You see what is going to happen. Unfortunately, we hope that it doesn't, but when it does, we're ready to welcome those customers on board.
Do you all serve many of the same markets as Spirit, where like it would be a one-to-one for someone?
Yeah, we have Atlanta, Chicago, Fort Lauderdale, Houston, Las Vegas, Miami, Newark, New Orleans, Orlando. So we do have some parallel markets that we share together.
Mm-hmm. And so let's just, we have seen such trepidation about going into the summer months, one with one less competitor, if you will. I don't know if you all considered Spirit a competitor, again, because of maybe the state of what they were going through, but with one less competitor and with geopolitical issues going on that cause gas and thus fuel prices to go up, people are really concerned about what that could mean for ticket prices for all airlines. What do you say to them?
So I would say, first of all, Spirit is one of our competitors. We consider all carriers are competitive of United. And from a fare perspective, like fares go up and down all the time. And, we have a really good fuel strategy. As Scott Kirby talked about it at the Earnings Live last week, and talked about our strategy at that point. But today we're really just focusing on taking care of the customers for Spirit and welcoming them to United.
And I see that at last check, we'll say, because it's probably gone up even as the day has been going on and more people have been hearing this message. But as of Saturday, about 14,000 Spirit customers had booked tickets with United. How do you all absorb all of that many thousands of people who immediately run to you all for help?
You know what? Unfortunately, we knew this was going to happen, so we were prepared to help those Spirit customers in any way. So to date, we announced right away on Saturday, the live app went, we actually activated the application to rebook for Spirit customers. We had that up and running by 3 a.m. because we had the idea that this was going to happen. And actually, we actually, yes, 14,000 initially, but to date, we're at 43,000 customers that United has been able to help and rebook.
Whoa, oh my goodness. That's a lot of people who are scrambling right now. And one of the things that, I mean, they're obviously we're in kind of a moment where everyone's picking apart all of their decisions, Spirit's decisions over the last several years that have led to the moment that we're in. But one of the things that Spirit talked about that kind of maybe was the nail in the coffin, essentially, was the surge in fuel prices. Would you agree that it's been a heavy load for airlines, including United, right now?
Well, I think every airline is impacted a little bit differently. Like I said earlier, Scott Kirby, we have a very good fuel strategy, and he mentioned that, and he talked about that at the earnings live call last week. But when you look at the whole industry in and of itself, I think Spirit was in trouble way before any of these fuel prices, before the fuel prices went up.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. That's documented for sure.
Yep.
And as we go into the summer months, obviously, even for United, we've already discussed that there will be some caps in terms of how many flights you all can have out of O'Hare this summer. How do you think that will impact your business?
Well, we were planning on like 780 flights, so we were ready for it. Now we're down. The FAA came back and we're down to 650 flights, which is great because we were prepared for 775, and we really have put ourselves in a really good position here at O'Hare to be able to manage those customers and that volume. So we're actually pretty excited about it. And actually today we're flying 690 flights on average. So it's actually a little bit lower based on the FAA mandate, which is okay too.
Mm-hmm. And when you say manage it, the cut from the FAA, was that so that, okay, we don't have as many disruptions or, canceled flights, postponed flights?
No, I think it's just really the capability right now. We're balancing it between our competitors here. So everyone has a certain amount of flights allocated to them. So it's really about managing that, and I think we'll continue to grow after that.
Okay, yeah. Well, I hope that it's a busy, in a good way, summer for all. Thank you so much for your time. We certainly appreciate you, getting on the line with us so quickly, especially with so many people having booked with Spirit that now need to hear some friendly words about the skies. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We appreciate it. It's 2:40 right now, everyone. We did see that our bear out in Los Angeles got a little tranquilizer, taking a little nap there now. So they're going to try to get it back to its home. It's no longer on the roam, but hopefully it'll be okay. It is alive, and we're hoping that they're just making sure it can't, hop off and grab any of them. I do believe it's in a deep sleep right now, so we're hoping that they get it back to its home. It's been on the run for a couple of days. Obviously, a lot of folks have been concerned. They had to close off a park at one point in time, close off a library. The dogs in the neighborhood have been going crazy. But in the 2 days that it's been on the run, that it's at least been reported on the run in the San Fernando Valley area, no injuries to anyone. No lives lost or anything like that. So it's just been getting a little exercise and maybe finding its way. So they'll try to get it back to a place where it can now be safe, and the people and the animals, the small pets, can be safe as well. Just taking a little sleep for them to get it back to a better place. All right. We're going to take a 2-minute break, everyone, and then we're going to move forward here on Chicago Live. Oh, little bear. everyone. 2:43. They've got our bear out in LA off of the ledge into a little blanket, getting ready to get it back to a home, a place to call home, away from the people in the neighborhood. It's been on the run for a couple of days, so it's down in the blanket now, and they're getting ready to take it away. I'm sure the dogs in the neighborhood are ecstatic about that, but hopefully it gets to a safe space. Again, it is alive, it's just sleeping right now, and they're going to get it to a safer location for all of the people who live in the area that have been concerned over the last couple of days. And the law enforcement presence has been stepped up greatly over the last couple of days with this very large, actually, a pretty sizable bear that's been on the run in their area. There he is. Oh, I hope it's okay. It's going to be all right. Taking good care of it to make sure it'll be okay, just in a different area. It's about 2:45, so we're going to come on back here to Chicago. Again, the bear was not here in Chicago. That was Los Angeles, all right? But back here in Chicago, we're seeing better weather, at least for now. Yes, it will change, but you know, we're getting closer to the days when everyone's out and about a lot more. And in time for that, the city of Chicago is launching a new e-scooter safety campaign before everyone is out riding around. And so we have the CDOT Assistant Commissioner, David Poe, who is joining me now as we look to raise awareness and hopefully keep the injuries to a minimum. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
So tell us about the campaign. What are you all trying to do right now?
So I'm sure everyone's seen the scooters that have hit the street over the last few years in Chicago. More people are riding scooters than ever, whether that's through Divvy or Lime or their own personal e-scooter. We've already seen more than 1 million rides this year between Divvy and Lime alone, and last year we saw 7 million rides. And spring is really when these scooter systems start to take off. And so this is the right time to make sure that everyone is riding safely and responsibly. And our message to riders is pretty simple. Wear a helmet, use bike lanes, not the sidewalks, and only one person per scooter, no tandem riding. So nobody needs to be riding with their friend on a scooter, just one person. And this goes out to parents and kids.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said parents and kids. We've seen, not just here in the city of Chicago, but even in the suburbs, there have been concerted efforts to make sure that young kids aren't on these scooters. Talk about the risk.
The risk is if you're not wearing a helmet, then you're not as safe as you can be. When you have two people on a scooter, you can really lose your center of gravity pretty easily. It's not the same as a bike. You're standing on this, it moves around a lot more nimbly than a bike. So we really want people to take this seriously. We want parents and kids and adults who are using these to stay in the bike lane. We want them to stay off the sidewalk. We want them to wear a helmet and follow the rules.
Yeah, and when we say, you can't be on the sidewalk, that is a good caveat of being in the bike lane, because one of the issues that we have seen is collisions with drivers who, are wondering, wait, who's supposed to be on the road?
Yeah, I totally understand. It's a new thing that's sort of taken the country by storm, and so the city of Chicago has noticed that explosive growth and how scooters are interacting with cars in a different way than cyclists or pedestrians. We see a lot more young people using them, and so what we've done in response is we've launched this campaign. And we've added, since 2023, more than 100 miles of bikeways across the city of Chicago. And we are encouraging and educating people through our Safe Ambassadors program, through billboards and city ad panels all over the city to do what I said earlier. Wear a helmet, ride alone, and stay in the bike lane.
I remember in 2023 when the Lime and Divvy bikes, scooters, first started showing up, and it was like, are they here to stay? There was the whole back and forth, and before they were a more permanent fixture in the area, and now it's expanded so much. So what are the positives to these scooters in the area?
The positives are that it's one of the cheapest ways for somebody to get across the city without sweating. I like taking the scooters when I'm wearing a suit because when I cycle in the summer or the spring, I sweat. But these scooters are great if you're going to work, if you're in a hurry on a date or going to school or about to give a presentation and you don't want to be sweaty. That's what it's great for. It's a lot of fun to ride these scooters, especially in the bike lanes. And the positives are that we've seen 7 million rides on scooters that otherwise could have been automobile trips on the Kennedy. They could have been Uber trips down Ashland Avenue. They could have been trips on CTA though. So, we're really encouraging people to check out all of their options. We want to make sure that this is a permanent, successful program. And we've seen 7 million rides last year. We anticipate probably a lot more than that this year. And we see that as a positive. It gets people off the roadways. It gets people into these bike lanes that we've invested so much in. And it gives people another low cost way to get around.
Even the bike lanes have been a bit controversial for some neighborhoods because there have been some folks who have felt like they took away from parking space for certain neighborhoods. Your response?
We want to make sure that we're building safe and complete streets for everybody. And the city does always weigh parking versus safety versus travel capacity. And I think in every situation, we look at it differently. And we want to make sure that we're providing the best parking and travel options for everyone in Chicago.
And when we talk about accountability, what does that look like for those who ride e-scooters or for drivers who come in contact with them?
Well, first I want to start with updates to our rules and regulations citywide that the city made this year and last year. We now require scooter operators in the city to have sidewalk riding detection. So if you ride a Divvy or a Lime scooter anywhere in Chicago and you ride on the sidewalk and it detects that, it will audibly tell you to exit the sidewalk. You will hear it very loudly. You will get an in-app notification. You will get an email. And if you do it a second time, a third time, a fourth time, you can get fined, you can get suspended from the platform, you can get kicked off the platform. Those rules were updated robustly last year because that's the main way we saw accountability becoming real. And we have seen thousands of people get citations, get tickets, get fines, get suspended on the platform. It's really, really working. So this was in response to a number of aldermen in the last year, really working with CDOT to make sure that we prioritize safety. Most importantly, Alderman Matt O'Shea made sure that this was a big priority for CDOT. And so I want to thank all of our city councilors for their leadership on this.
What are the highest demand areas for these scooters?
Usually the loop. Outside of the loop, we generally see high demand around CTA and metro stations during rush hour, as well as concert venues, sports stadiums, which is why over the last 2 years, we've launched a number of scooter parking pilots and parking corrals, new divvy stations around Wrigleyville, around the Salt Shed and West Loop, because we see these massive surges of demand in the loop, which we always do, we always have, but also when there's a big concert, when there's a festival like Lollapalooza. So we work really closely with the Chicago Police Department, OEMC, to make sure that we're able to control the flow of that traffic and make sure that these scooters are parked appropriately so that they're not blocking the sidewalk, wheelchair ramps, or any other way that pedestrians, cyclists, or folks in vehicles and emergency vehicles are traveling through the area.
And is there a separate campaign for Divvy bikes, or is this kind of all encompassing?
Well, we have safe ambassadors at CDOT, and that means streets are for everyone. And they have, over the last probably 10 years, really built out a robust education program around safe cycling. What we're doing with this campaign is we are incorporating scooters into all of their education, into their learn to ride classes, into their engagement. So Divvy bikes, both e-bikes and pedal bikes, have long been what these safe ambassadors have used in education to teach people how to ride bikes, to teach people about parking bikes, taking them on the CTA, whatever that might be. But now we're really rolling scooters in because, like you said, they were a pilot, then they became permanent, and then they have really taken off. So we want to make sure that if these are going to be a permanent part of our mobility system, that we do this in a robust way and the safest way possible.
And I would love to know, what you see in terms of growth from here. I mean, anytime there's a pilot in the area, everyone's like, oh, wow, this is, maybe you've seen it somewhere else and you see it pop up here. But what are some other things that you all are monitoring right now, especially as we go into the summer months?
I think two important things that we're monitoring is tandem riding is the first one. We have been meeting with our peer cities all over the world over the past year to make sure that we're up to date on the best and most robust technology to detect multiple riders on a scooter. And we are working with Lyft and Lime to ensure that we are aware of the best practice all over the world so that we can bring that to Chicago when the time is right. We are also laser focused on preventing underage riding. There have been some unfortunate crashes over the last couple of weeks with young people on scooters. We are aware of that. We are responding to that with this robust safety plan. We are, again, working with both companies and meeting with our peers all over the world to understand the best, most equitable way to minimize underage usage of Lime and Divvy scooters across the city.
And I know for the suburbs, there were conversations about not riding them under the age of 16. Is it the same for the city?
So it depends, but we generally, you need to be 18 to ride a scooter in the city. But that is for Divvy and Lime. If you have your own personal scooter that your parents buy for you and you're 13 or 14, although you might not be allowed to ride that scooter, the really is up to the parent to make sure that you're not doing that on the sidewalks in your local street.
Okay. And then who handles inspections of the devices themselves?
So if it's for a Lime or a Divvy device, the city has a robust set of inspection points for both companies. So Lime operates under a business license in the city of Chicago, and then Divvy is owned by the city of Chicago, but operated by Lyft, the rideshare company. And so we work with both of those companies to make sure via monthly reports to the city that they're operating top of the line safe equipment across the city.
Okay. And are we at all concerned that, there are positives, but maybe that it adds to congestion as well? I mean, we have a pretty high or very frequently talked about, we'll say it that way, maybe to best be safe about it, instance of car pedestrian accidents that happen around here.
We get that question a lot, and it's something that we have quarterly community meetings called Community Mobility Collaboratives, where we talk to communities about those very issues. When my dad visits, he's disabled and has a walker, and when we are on the sidewalk, the last thing I want to have to worry about is a car pulling up to the sidewalk to park or hitting him, or a scooter running him over. And so what we're doing at CDOT is we're working to prevent all crashes, all negative interactions between pedestrians, cyclists, people on scooters, and motorists. And so that takes the form of different projects. That could be a bike lane, that could be a raised crosswalk or curb bump out. But we evaluate all of these potential unsafe interactions between different mode users individually and with the community. And I think that over the next year, we'll be doing a lot of those conversations, kicking a lot of those off to understand how scooters play into those conversations and how scooters play into the solution. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it, and I hope that the campaign raises enough awareness that it does cause more people to be at least safe if they're going to be out and about on these scooters over the summer.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it so much. Have a great week.
All right, you too. Take care. 2:58,
Thanks.
everyone. Give us 2 minutes. I'll set you up for going in the 3 o'clock hour. 3:02. Welcome back, everyone. For those of you who have been with us since we started at 1 o'clock, we certainly appreciate it. And if you're just joining us, that's all right. We still have a whole nother hour before we send you over to the 4 o'clock news. And so in that hour, we're going to talk to the folks at Tacombe as we get ready for Cinco de Mayo this week. They are actually turning this occasion into not just a celebration, but also a supportive day where they're giving 100% of their proceeds on that day to educational purposes. And we're going to talk a little bit more about maybe the state of things right now, and then also how they're using this moment where so many people will be coming in their doors to educate people broadly. We'll also talk a little bit about the weather outside. I can tell you that first thing this morning, it was so nice to see the sun out. It felt wonderful outside. Even when we started the show in that 1 o'clock hour, the sun was beaming down. And you can see here, it's still a nice day. But things are changing. You know, this time of year, we just can't seem to hold on to the nice conditions for too long. And so we're going to have JD Rudd come up and tell us a little bit about where we're going in the next few hours and in the next few days. But suffice to say, things are a-changing outside. So we'll talk more about that. I'll let you know about some of the things that are going to be coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, what our reporters are working on right now to get ready for the next big show. But we're starting here with the explosion of popularity when it comes to prediction markets. Exploding in popularity, but maybe not so much in terms of where we're seeing so many winners out there, right? We've got a lot of folks who are giving it a good shot, but not a whole lot of folks who are winning. And so the Wall Street Journal actually has some new analysis about why almost everyone loses, except a few sharks in these prediction markets. And we have Neil Mehta from the Wall Street Journal who is joining us to talk a little bit about working on this story. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So let's start with why you decided to look into this prediction market.
Of course, prediction markets seem to be everywhere nowadays. You can see them in advertisements, and even in terms of the volume of money that people are placing on these sites, it's really exploded. And because of that, we thought it was interesting to look at who is making money and who's losing money on these sites. And would love to talk more about what we found, but to summarize, we found that most people on these websites are actually losing money.
And are we talking about big bucks?
So the average player on Polymarket, which is one of the major prediction market websites, loses between $1 and $100 is what our reporting found. But there are some people who lose more. So if you're in the bottom 10% of players by profit and loss, you're losing an average of $4,000.
Ooh, okay. I mean, and even the $1 to $100, hey, that's a tank of gas, and gas is a premium right now that everyone's talking about. So let's take a deeper dive into you all's analysis, what you were looking for, what you started to find.
Well, what we found to summarize is that on Polymarket, around 70% of users lose their money. And that's based on over 1.6 million accounts that we analyzed. And on Kalshi, based on data from the past month, for each winner, there's just under 3 losers. So you can see sort of a similar breakdown on both of these sites where a majority of players are losing. But then we were wondering who's winning. And one factor that we looked at is the trading frequency of some of these accounts. So are you placing a trade here and there every few days, or are you someone who's placing tens of thousands of trade every day, maybe using some kind of algorithm or a computer? And what we saw is that if you're in the top fraction of the fastest traders, so if you're in the top 0.1% of traders by frequency, then you're more likely to win than lose. But in all of these other buckets, you're more likely to lose than to win. And so that combined with our reporting shows how a lot of these traders are actually firms who are paying money for data and for servers, and they're winning big by placing tens of thousands of trades every single day.
Wow. Do you think people know that? Like, do you think people realize, like, hey, I'm probably not going to win, but I'm just kind of locked in? Or do you think this is really eye-opening for a lot of folks?
Well, what we know is that casual bettors trade nothing like these sophisticated bettors on average. It's very common for a casual bettor to simply bet yes on an event that they hope will happen. And casual bettors are, in theory and according to research, more susceptible to long shot bias, which is when they inflate the value of these sort of long shot bets. If something is really unlikely, then it might seem really exciting to take a bet on it. But what we see with these more sophisticated traders is that they're really disciplined, and because they're using algorithms to trade, they have a lot less of these biases in their trades. So if you look at the long run, these algorithmic traders, many of whom we talk to, are doing quite well.
And are you at all concerned about where we're going with this? I mean, we saw the soldier that was involved in the the capture of the Venezuelan leader who placed a bet on that operation. When we start to see things like that, is that raising some alarm bells?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of reporting of alleged insider trading in sort of the political arena as well, some that my colleagues have done. What we're really interested in finding out in this story was who's winning and who's losing, and how are they going about doing that? It looks like both on Polymarket and Kalshi, you see folks using massive amounts of capital that they raise, so sometimes millions of dollars, to buy data to take wins on their bets and on their accounts in the long run.
And are we seeing a lot of AI? I mean, when you talk about tens of thousands of bets, like, are we seeing a lot of AI in this?
Well, I actually spoke to one college student who started his own prediction market trading company with around a dozen staff members who are all college students, who also pays for AI in addition to these data streams and servers, and in all, it costs around $200,000 a year. And I remember he was telling me about a time that he was in his fraternity and he saw one of his frat brothers trading on the price of crypto on a prediction market just on his phone. And he says, oh, I know that guy is going to lose his money. When you think about the type of information that they have versus the type of information that a casual trader has, there's certainly an asymmetry in terms of the amount of money that they have, in terms of whether they're using AI agents and all these other resources, for sure.
Yeah, and there's there's several efforts here in our area and well beyond, even nationally, even to try to cut down on insider trading. Do you think these types of conversations, this type of analysis that you all did, will lead to changed behavior?
That's a really interesting question. I think that our goal is to make sure that people know what's going on in these prediction market websites and who's playing them. And my hope is that through our reporting, we can shed a bit of light on who's winning, who's losing, and what the breakdown of players really looks like on prediction markets.
Mm-hmm. And did you all find that it's fairly easy to manipulate the market?
Well, in the case of this this story, we were really looking at factors like the frequency of trading. And what we found is that, you can really just, with a lot of money, with a lot of really expensive data, gain an edge in the markets. So it's not necessarily true that you need to have insider information to win. There's people who are winning, without insider information, but people are spending a lot of money to get data to win on these sites. And this data can be live data on how a sports team is doing, for example. And that can be a really big advantage when you're trading on these sites.
And let's say someone is listening to us right now and they're like, I don't understand this at all. Break it down as to where we are in society, what people can even, the limits of what people can bet on these days. When we talk about a poly market, what is that?
Of course. So there's two platforms that have really dominated the headlines. One is called Kalshi and one is called Polymarket. And Kalshi is regulated by a US agency and it's in the US. And Polymarket's main platform is an offshore platform that isn't supposed to be accessible to US users. Polymarket as well is testing a smaller beta early version of the platform to a limited number of users that's available in the US. And on both of these sites, you can bet on a lot. You can bet on the outcome of sports games. You can bet on the outcomes of elections. There's been some differences in the platforms in terms of their tolerance for certain types of events. So Kalshi, for example, has said that they don't want to place markets on outcomes that are related to death, for example. But you can really trade on everything from the price of crypto. So what will the price of Bitcoin be 15 minutes from now, all the way to who's going to win a specific election. So these are really bet on anything apps in large.
So you think there's like betting going on for the Met Gala tonight? Like what what people are going to wear?
That's a good question. You know, I haven't checked, but I'm curious to see what people are betting on. Like I said, there's a lot of bets on everything from politics to crypto to culture. And, you know, culture and music is a big category for some of these platforms. So people have bet on what types of performances are going to happen at the Super Bowl and who is going to win an award at the Grammys. So culture is certainly a really dominant segment of trading for a lot of these platforms.
Do you feel like more regulation is needed or already on the way?
That's a great question. There's a lot of regulation that exists right now on prediction markets that are, you know, present in the US and accessible to US users. And some platforms also operate offshore. So Polymarket's main international market operates offshore and it's not subject to those regulations. So depending on how these markets are organized, they're subject to different types of regulations.
Really good point there. Very good point there. Well, thank you so much for enlightening us on what's going on out there. I mean, what advice would you give people given what you found from your analysis?
Well, I don't know if I'm qualified to give any advice, but I hope that our article is interesting to people and I hope they take a read.
Okay, let me put it this way. After doing the analysis that you did, would you continue to place bets in these markets?
It's a good question. I personally have never bet on a prediction market, so I don't know if I can speak to that. But what I can say is that when you look at the numbers, it looks like most people are losing on these sites. You know, just around a third of people are winning on these sites. And, you know, that in some cases might meet someone's risk tolerance, and some people might say, oh, that's not for me. Our goal is to show exactly how many people are winning on these websites and how some of these people are going about that.
Good reporting. Thank you so much, Neil. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right. It's 3:15, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. right, welcome back, everyone. 3:17 right now. Let me tell you a little bit about what our reporters are working on for the 4 o'clock hour here. Joni Lum is going to be working on a story about transporting human remains. She's going to give you the details on that, but suffice to say there's a lot to talk about there. Our own Tina Nguyen, she is out at Wrigley today. They actually had to change the time of the game for the Cubs today as they are anticipating weather. I was telling you a few moments ago, we are eagerly awaiting JD Rudd's appearance up here right around 3:30 so that he can give us an update on our weather because we are anticipating storms today. So let me let that cat out of the bag, that we are anticipating storms. That's why I was talking about the fact that we had sunshine, then it started to kind of cloud over. Looks like the sun is kind of back outside for right now, but again, I think the Cubs made the call earlier today, maybe around 11 o'clock, that the game is going to be at 6:10, I believe, is when the game is going to happen this evening. So we have Tina Nguyen out there. Of course, one of our big stories today is about Spirit Airlines shutting down, and so we'll have one of our network reporters that's going to be working on that, getting a little bit more analysis on that, as well as still looking at the fallout from the White House Correspondents' Dinner suspect. That suspect was in court again, and so we're getting the latest on that. Still getting, obviously new images and new details that we're awaiting from these court appearances, just to find out what was in his mind, and what, if anything, could have prevented that from happening. What happens now? What type, the president has asked for the White House Correspondents' Dinner to be held again. He said, we've now gone a week, but he wanted it to be held again in 30 days. Is that even possible? Would you hold it at the same location? Would you just change up the security protocol for that location? There are lots of questions as to whether the hotel should just be shut down for an event like this. If you're going to need that type of stepped up protocol, this suspect had already booked a ticket from California, went through Chicago, on to Washington, D.C. to then go to this hotel. In the videos, you can see him kind of coming in and out of rooms. He had scoped out even the gym in the time frame before his efforts there to get inside of the ballroom. So what types of changes would you need to make to have an event like this if it's at the same location? And then there are so many scheduling types of things that would have to be addressed as well in order to have it again, or attempt to have it, in 30 days. So still lots of questions, lots of things that are coming out of that. We also have a couple of stories that are trending on our website right now. Here in Chicago, a man that was shot and killed outside of a Southside restaurant. It's a 26-year-old man that was shot late Sunday night, last night, outside of a restaurant. He was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center, but died there. No arrests have been made in that case, so we're giving more information. You can find that on our website again, fox32chicago.com. You can see that article there. A lot of people are clicking on that, as well as this story about 3 suburban Chicago teens arrested in a burglary spree investigation involving a stolen car here. So these 3 teenagers from Waukegan were taken into custody early Saturday morning. Police say they were involved in the theft of a vehicle and then a string of business burglaries. More than 40 business burglaries across Lake County they believe could have been connected to these teenagers. So this article is another one that a lot of people are clicking on right now in terms of we give a backstory here. We talk about what the police are saying. The Gurnee police chief made a statement. That's here too, as well as what's next. All of those things are in this article. Another one of our big stories today that a lot of people are following, and you'll hear much more on come 4 o'clock, is the strike that's happening outside of Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. We'll have a reporter on that. I believe Terrence Lee even just put in a phone call to Brookfield Zoo. If you're with us in the 2 o'clock hour, I shared this statement that we got in. It's a pretty lengthy statement, so I won't read it all again, but the statement that we got in from Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. So T. Lee put in a phone call to the union to see their response now to this latest statement from Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. But outside of Brookfield Zoo Chicago today. Starting at about 5 o'clock this morning, there were people on a picket line. Employees on a picket line who are raising concerns out there. We've spoken to the union president multiple times today, but again, trying to get in contact with that person one more time before the 4 o'clock show so that we can hear what their response is to the latest statement that we got from Brookfield Zoo Chicago. You know, one of the things that I think everyone says they want, but now they've got to figure out how to maintain in this type of situation is making sure the safety of the animals obviously doesn't fall through the cracks while these two sides are trying to negotiate things like health care, pay scales, all of those things. So first thing this morning, there was some question as to whether the workers would have full access. Those who care directly for the animals would still have full access to computers and things of that nature in the midst of these negotiations, and they're still working that out. Again, we've heard from Brookfield Zoo Chicago just within the last hour. Now we've put in another phone call to the union to get their response. We'll see where they are. Again, we're working on that for the 4 o'clock show as well. So several things that they are working on that you'll be able to see at 4 o'clock while all of this is going on. And again, the articles that we do have, if you want to check those out, fox32chicago.com, those are already up. The ones that we're working on right now, those will be updated very soon or put on the website very soon. But in the midst of all of that, we do have President Trump who is speaking right now at the White House. I believe they just had a small business summit. He's starting to take some questions from the reporters in the room as well. Let's listen in for a bit.
The tax cuts and the steel tariffs that I put on COSA is thriving like never before. I just heard from them, and they're at now full shifts, 2 full shifts, 6 days a week, and they may go to a 3rd shift, round the clock. Think of that, round the clock. They've never had that before, and they have the backlog of 7 months long of things that they're building, steel products, great. And they said, I was with the gentleman that owns the company, he thought he was going out of business, and now he said, now I have a great business in just a period of literally a year and a half. It's we thought we couldn't stop it. And he said, all of my friends up and down the line, they have different businesses, factories, big businesses, but they all thought they were going out of business, and now they're all doing better than they've ever done before. And they've gone from employing, in this case, 50 people to 125 people, and the 50 people is going down to about 14 or 15. And now they're at 125, and they're looking for additional people to work. And I want to thank their president, Andrew Seville, who I think maybe is here. Andrew, are you here someplace? Where are you, Andrew? Right. You want to say something? He's so he really understood what was happening, and I think it would be nice. You weren't supposed to speak, so I hope you're not nervous.
Thank you. The most thing that took us right to the top was your tariffs. And I think everybody in here that runs a small business, the tariffs had an effect on you one way or another, and that has just taken us, all the jobs that were going to China, you brought them back, and it really took us to the next level. And we were honored to have you come down to our company. So thank you for having me back here. I wasn't prepared to speak, so I'm going to get off the stage. Thank you.
You know what? It's a little truth to that, Rick. Sometimes you don't think you're going to introduce somebody, you know they're in the audience, but they don't know, and they end up doing better because they speak from the heart. They have no choice. They can't think about all night long, what am I going to say? And then you get up and you bore the place. No, it's very good. You speak from the heart, and that's true. Tariffs were a very big part. We had an unfortunate ruling out of the Supreme Court, but the good news is I'm able to do it a different way. They said use the other way. There was no reason for that. It was terrible, actually terrible, but it'll have no impact other than I hate to pay people back. Tariffs, $159 billion. I have to pay them back when a little half sentence, any money taken in to this point does not have to be paid back. We would have saved $159 billion And I cannot figure it out. How could anybody do that? But they did it. We have other ways of tariffing, as you know. We're already doing it. And actually, they're more tested, they're stronger, a little bit more complex. I like to keep it as simple as possible. And in many ways, they'll be better. It'll be better. I just want you not to think that because of that decision, the tariffs will actually be higher. It's turning out they're going to end up being higher. But it's made our country rich, really rich. And it's like Andrew said, I mean, without them, there would be nothing we could do to save your country. Nothing. It's the greatest word. Remember, I used to say it's my favorite word in the dictionary, the word tariff. And then the fake news got on me. They said, well, what about God? What about your wife? What about your family? What about... So they were just killing me because I said it's my favorite word. I said, all right, it's my fifth favorite word. So it's my fifth favorite word. But because of tariffs, and, you know, the proper use of tariffs, so you have to use them in a certain way. But, you know, we've been ripped off in this. I've been talking about it for years. We've been ripped off in this country for decades. We lost our car industry. Think of it. There's a person here making utensils, beautiful forks and knives and things. Where is that person? Who's around here somewhere?
Okay, we've been listening in to President Trump as he has this small business summit there at the White House today. Businesses from all over the country, and he's taking this moment really to talk specifically about tariffs, you know, and kind of went in on the Supreme Court decision. You saw there was one business owner who he called out in the audience, had come up to speak, and he spoke very favorably about how the tariffs have turned his business around because it's put more of an emphasis on the United States. But obviously, the decision that went to the Supreme Court came from a business that was here in Illinois, in fact, that Vernon Hills, a company in Vernon Hills that had been hurt significantly by the tariffs. And that decision that came down, President Trump says, don't worry, there will be higher tariffs instead. That he has tested, his administration have tested new methods, and that there will be higher tariffs instead. So still a lot of back and forth when it comes to tariffs. And obviously some people feel that they have been helpful, and some people feel like they have put them close to going out of business. But the president says they will go forward, just in a different way. It's 3:30. JD Rudd is in the house, so give us 2 minutes. We're going to be back and talk about this weather outside. 3:32 now. The aforementioned JD Rudd is here. And I wish that the sun was like your tie, but it's kind of it's shining and then going away.
Not necessarily a bad thing. It is getting warm outside.
Okay.
I mean, we have many areas right now in the upper 70s, if not right around 80 degrees. So it's a little bit toasty. Yeah. So.
But it feels like the tale of two sides of our screen.
It really is. It really is. One side's getting sunshine, the other side not so much. But hey, on a real warm day, sometimes a little filtered sunshine isn't a bad thing because this time of year, that sun is strong. With it already being warm outside, the sun hits you, you go, oh man, we just had frost on Saturday morning.
Which is so crazy.
Let's not forget this. It was down around 30 degrees, and now today we're about 80 degrees.
It's wild. And one of the things that I think really speaks volumes to the point in the year that we're in is that not only did we swing that way so quickly, but we can't hold on to it.
Yep. That's how it goes. What goes up will come back down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's a strong cold front going to come in later on this evening. It's going to knock temperatures down for tomorrow and the next couple of days. So say goodbye to the upper 70s and near 80 for a little while. But the thing about it, with that front coming in and cutting into that warm air, storm chances tonight. That's really going to keep an eye on. There could be some strong to severe thunderstorms. I kind of got the graphic up here to tell you about that. The prime window for the majority of our area is roughly 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Now, let me dissect that a little bit more. Based on some dynamics that I have seen and everything else like that, the greatest chances for anything strong to severe would mainly be city and south. Those areas closer to, say, the Wisconsin state line, I think it's a lower threat. Those on the Indiana side of life, there might be a little early window, 5 p.m. to, say, 7 or 8 p.m., and then everything dives to the south. And once we get beyond about 11 o'clock tonight, it's south of our viewing area, more so into central Illinois and portions of western Indiana. The worry, though, is that one or two of these storms may pulse up strong enough to produce some damaging wind gusts, maybe some hail and heavy rain. I don't think we're in a tornado threat, and with how warm it is, we actually have a few things working for us to keep storms at bay today. One of the best things is we don't have high humidity. If you step outside of this warmth right now, you're not going, oh, it's super sticky and sweaty. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, it's warm. Without the higher dew points, that's moisture, that's fuel for thunderstorms. We don't have that. That's good, so it may limit the overall severe weather threat for tonight into early tomorrow morning.
But the wind gust alone can do us in sometime. We saw it last week.
Yes, you can get what we call synoptic wind, just regular old general wind that knocks your socks off, blows you away. We have a blowing dust advisory, I think, in some places today. Yeah, because there's some farm fields and whatnot, still some dirt on top of them. That it's gotten dry, it's gotten a little crusty. The wind blows this stuff around, and you get dust everywhere. It can reduce visibility, so that's a concern. The rain tonight should help squelch that, and the wind should start to subside once this front comes through as well.
So you think the Cubs changing the time of their game was a...
That's why they did. I'm pretty sure that's why they did that, to try to circumvent this storm window, to try to get that game in, because the later they start, there's a chance something goes wrong. Hopefully now with this slightly earlier start time, they can get the game in for any kind of delays or issues for the fans.
And then where do we go from here?
Well, we go down, of course, down the thermometer for a couple of days. But listen, it's not all doom and gloom. Okay, look, so tomorrow, morning showers, close to 60. That's cooler than normal. It's not 80. Wednesday, Thursday, okay, but here's how I'm going to silver line this for you. Most of us work Monday through Friday. We don't have time to go outside and enjoy the nice weather, right? So let's get the nasty, unpleasant stuff done during the work week, and then by the weekend, hey, 65 on Friday, 70s come back on Saturday, maybe a rain shower on Sunday. Don't cancel your outdoor plans. Middle 60s, that's not bad. That's pretty close to normal for this time of year. And then mid 60s for Monday of next week. So see, it's not all bad.
It's not all bad for sure.
There's no frost in the forecast.
And man, that was so crazy. But when we look at that, I'm thinking about all the folks who are going to be doing so many different things. I mean, some things have been canceled, but Cinco de Mayo tomorrow. And the Cinco de Mayo, the race on Saturday. Two kind of different pictures there, too.
100%, yes. And if I do anything tomorrow, the chance of rain in the morning, it might not be terribly widespread. Showers should be gone by about 10, 11 a.m. But not as warm as today, so not the most ideal weather if you were thinking, hey, when I get off work, I'm going to go out and do this. maybe it's an indoor Cinco de Mayo party somewhere. And then for the weekend, it won't be terrible.
No.
Not at all.
Didn't look bad at all.
No.
It's starting in the 40s as opposed to...
I know, the freezing temperatures that we had a couple of days ago. It's this lovely time of the year where everything kind of ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And we talked about it last week, how we get these little warm-ups and we cool down. And we warm up and we cool down. We go, can't we just keep this?
It was like, hello, May 1st. Which coat do I need?
Yeah. And now today, people watching, how many folks are in shorts? I mean, there are some folks surprisingly in some coats.
Yeah, I was going to say no. We are solidly all over the place today.
Everywhere, 100%.
Yeah, people are a little confused. I see sleeveless over there and coats over here. We are solidly all over the place.
It's hard to dress for things because you don't know what the atmosphere is going to bring us.
You can't even look at somebody and say, now why did they? You know what? I get it.
I
get it.
I understand.
Yeah, and you kind of have to prepare for it all. So we're just here. We're here. Thank you so much for coming up. We know you got to get ready for the 4 o'clock show, so we'll get you back down there. Everyone, give us 2 minutes, and we'll be back here. everyone. It's about 3:43 right now. I'm going to give you a couple things just from sports before we get to our next conversation here. We were mentioning as we were talking with JD Rudd that the Cubs probably did the right thing with the weather that is coming tonight, and that is that tonight's game between the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds at Wrigley Field has been changed to 6:10 p.m. and they do say specifically that start time was changed due to forecasted inclement weather. It's going to automatically update anybody who has tickets, but for anyone who is listening who may not have heard already, again, that game has been changed to 6:10 p.m. Maybe you just live in the area and you're not, want to be up to date on what's happening. We have Tina Nguyen, who is there. She's going to be reporting from Wrigley Field. She'll have the information on the game, all of the ins and outs. The Cubs are riding high right now. Riding real high right now. I think I heard 12 wins. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to go see them try to get a 13th, and we're certainly hoping that they get it. But also today in sports, Chicago Sky, they waived Haley Van Lith. Last year she was number 11. She was the 11th pick in the WNBA draft. I remember watching her when she played. She played for quite a few teams while she was in college. But those last couple of years, she played for LSU. That was a really big deal when LSU got her, and then she played for TCU, I believe, for her last couple of years. So it was a moment when they got her here for the Chicago Sky. Former first rounder, again, played in 29 games as a rookie, and now she has been waived at the start of this season. There have been so many different moves for the Chicago Sky this year. One can only hope that they all pay off and that we have a phenomenal season ahead with lots of changes that have been made. But it's about 3:45, so our final conversation of the day is about Cinco de Mayo and a restaurant that's not just using the celebration as a time to party, but also a time to educate and really support some efforts that are happening here in our area. This is Tacombe that we're talking about. They're marking this occasion on May 5th with a donation effort that we want to tell you about. Amelia Reba, who is the CEO of Tacombe, who is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Anita. So nice to meet you, and thank you for having me here today.
You are making us all hungry in here. For some reason, I feel like I have smell-o-vision, but it definitely makes me want to head out there. Tell us a little bit about what you all typically do for Cinco de Mayo.
So Cinco de Mayo has been a tradition for us over the past 5 years, almost 6 years, with Tomorrow, where we basically donate our net proceeds to our Tacombe Foundation. So we're very excited about Tomorrow, obviously. This year, as part of driving the direction of where we want our purpose to be for Tacombe and its foundation, it's basically building schools in Mexico. So obviously, as a Mexican concept, we want to give back to our communities. And what way to do better than giving back to Mexico and helping with education to bring better futures for younger kids.
Mm-hmm. And how helpful do you think this one day will be toward that effort?
Well, look, tomorrow is our biggest day of the year in sales, right? And it definitely helps a lot. I do believe that it's not just one day, right? The foundation has been part of Tacombe's DNA since almost the very beginning. And we've always tried to support our communities, either locally or in Mexico, as we're doing right now. And definitely tomorrow will be a big day for us and a big day that we can support. Obviously, it comes down to all the many guests that are going to come and join us tomorrow. They're going to have a great time, and they're going to help us contribute to make that effort even bigger. But it's not just one day, right? It's throughout the year with all the different things and supports and partnerships that we do, and even our suppliers or partners, how they help us contribute in giving back to our community.
Tell me how you gear up for this type of big day.
So we do a lot of things, obviously. The teams are the most important element, right? Things could not happen if we wouldn't have great teams in our kitchens, right? And in our servers and all the team members that day in and day out are giving everything and making great food and great drinks and great service in our taqueria. So as part of it, but we do have a lot of like internal rallying gearing up to tomorrow. You'll see everyone will have our Cinco de Mayo t-shirts, right? We're all dressed in pride for this day. And there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes in terms of gearing up with our partners, having enough ingredients, having enough supply, making sure we have our kitchens ready because everything is made to order. So whenever an order comes through, right, like we start prepping our tacos, our burritos, our quesadillas, all our drinks. So we definitely need to have a lot of support happening in the back end to make sure that everything runs flawlessly and smoothly.
Mm-hmm. And I'm certainly hoping that the people pack in there to help you all with your efforts and with your business. I know you just did some renovations in there too.
Yes. So we have 2 locations in Chicago. One is in Fulton Market, which we've been open for almost 3-4 years now. And Wicker Park, we had to do some renovations there. We had to do some structural work there with our floors and our ceilings. So we were paused for several months. Right? Unfortunately, we had to close during the winter season. But we felt that there could not be a better day than to reopen our doors in the Wicker Park neighborhood on Cinco de Mayo, which is tomorrow, and welcome everyone to enjoy, have our tacos and our drinks back again, but also contribute for the great cause.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's a great cause. And I know you all are a brand that's rooted in Mexican culture. There will be some who ask the question, well, why not use the proceeds for schools here in Chicago? What do you say to them?
I think there's a couple of things, right? I think first and foremost, the most important thing is we're rooted in giving back to our communities. Right. And over the years, we've evolved how we contribute to our communities. We started the foundation in 2018, and the purpose was, again, to focus on education. After COVID hit in 2020, we had to shift gears, and our foundation basically created the Tacombi Community Kitchen, which over the past 5 years has been giving out 1.5 million meals for people in need. And this was locally in New York, in Chicago, in DMV, in Connecticut, and in Florida, which is where we have our Tacombi taquerias. Given that we're Mexican, I think we need to honor our roots, right? And give back to the communities that basically it's the business that we have today, right? It's Mexican culture, it's Mexican tacos, it's Mexican drinks. I think it's part of like going back to the origin of our foundation and redirecting the purpose into giving back to Mexico with helping with education. And again, I think it's not about Mexico or here. It's about giving back to the communities because of our roots and who we are as a business and as a company. We feel that it's right to give back to Mexico.
I think it's a beautiful thing that you're giving back to many different communities, and people may not see all of the different ways that you give back. So it's also important in opportunities like this to kind of showcase the many different ways that you have helped out over the years.
Absolutely.
There are several events that have canceled last year and this year. Their Cinco de Mayo festivities, parades, things of that nature. Tell me about just the changing culture or moment that we're in and how you feel about proceeding forward, what you think will be on the minds of people for this Cinco de Mayo versus maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
I think every year is different, right? And for us, this year is a very special year. It marks our 20th anniversary also for Tacombi, right? And we understand like there's always going to be things happening here and there, right? And it's going to change the dynamics. For us, it's about celebrating Mexican culture, celebrating great food, celebrating great drinks, and having pride in our service. And that's how we see it in our nimble and humble, right, way, and that's what we look forward to tomorrow. It's ensuring that everyone that walks through our doors comes having a great experience, that they enjoy everything we have to offer, and leave knowing that they're making a mark and they're making an impact in our communities.
Well, I'm adding Tacombe to my list. I'll have to get out and make sure I check you all out. I saw quite a few dishes go by behind you that if I could just reach out and grab them.
Yes.
They look awesome. Thank you for joining us here today, and I hope that you have a wonderful day tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Anita. It was great to be here.
All
Have
right.
a great day.
You take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Give us 2 minutes, everyone, and we'll be back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:55 right now. I want, if you are looking at your screen, you to know this is in Washington, D.C. This is not Chicago. This is Washington, D.C. here. The White House briefly locked down today, moments ago, after an individual was shot by law enforcement. This is near the Washington Monument. There is a very large police presence in this area for many reasons, obviously. The person's condition, circumstances surrounding the shooting, again, not immediately known at this point in time, but we do know that the Secret Service have encouraged people to avoid the area as emergency crews are there, again, not far from the White House, where law enforcement has shot someone in this area right now. Not much information at all being given other than an individual was shot by law enforcement near the Washington Monument today here. As we get in more information, and I'm sure they'll be tracking this in the 4 o'clock show, they will definitely pass that along to you, but we know the White House was briefly locked down as authorities investigated this incident. The Secret Service are ushering journalists into a briefing room right now as we speak here so that we can get more information. So stand by. They will be giving you more information coming up in the 4 o'clock hour as we see this very active scene here not far from the White House and very near the Washington Monument, where the law enforcement in the DC area have shot a person. No word on the condition of that person or if anyone else was hurt, but that is again the situation that's unfolding there in Washington, DC. Before we let you out of here, we also want to take a look at the stock market today. Not at all a good start to the work week. You can see here stocks fell pretty drastically here today, and you can see where they ended for the day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average shedding about a little over 550 points here, or 1.13% to close the day. The S&P 500 also slid 0.41% today, and the NASDAQ Composite lost 0.19% today. And these latest developments have a lot to do with the conflict in the Middle East, oil prices continuing to go higher, sparking further worries about instability in the region here today. You can see that Brent crude prices today are right around $114 a barrel. The West Texas Intermediate crude around $107 a barrel today. Energy prices also climbing. There is a lot going on, and again, a lot that's tied to the conflict in the Middle East right now, as we still, from all standpoints, aren't exactly sure where that conflict stands. We're technically in a ceasefire. The president says that he is mulling over a proposal that was sent from the Iranian officials, but at the same time,
some heat. Yeah. He had a really good roll out of the album. He wants people to remember that he took a huge L. It keeps him relevant. He makes a joke out of it now. Win for Drake.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
All right, a lot to sort through this afternoon, like the sudden Spirit shutdown, and now airlines across the country are raising fares. What this means for your summer travel plans.
On the south side, Walgreens